Humans sleep for about 8 hours every night, and the reason why we need so much sleep compared to other animals is because we have evolved to sleep for that long so that we can have the most amount of energy at the beginning of the day. And then slowly as it goes down, as the day itself comes to an end, we maximize productivity in the early daytime hours, and by nighttime we stop working. Thus, there was no need to have much energy at the end of the day. We have evolved over thousands of years to deal with the same pattern of we wake up early in the morning when the sun comes out, we work throughout the day, and when it gets dark, we stop working and we go to bed. Sure, some extra stuff in the middle, but that's pretty much how it's been for our whole existence on Earth. And it's only very recently in human history that we do not necessarily follow that pattern. And we tend to do many different things that affect our ability to sleep well. Now, if I tell you to fix your sleep, what most people instantly go to is, okay, I need to not use my phone before bed, or I need to be exposed to less bright lights before bed, or I need to sleep at a proper time. And well, all of that, those yes are factors that help. Most of the work that allows humans to fall asleep easier happens throughout the day. The choices you make so that you can sleep well at the end of the night start after you wake up. And the best time to work is during the early morning. First, because it's when we are the most active and we have the most amount of energy and focus, but also because working closer to the end of the day will actually negatively affect how easy it is to fall asleep at night. Not only this, but the more tasks we have completed every day, the better it is. If you finish work right before going to bed, your brain is still going to be thinking about, oh, that email, or oh, that document. And if we didn't finish, then your brain will continue reminding you about how you didn't clean the house today or whatever. The secret to sleeping better is to schedule our day so that by the end of it, our brain doesn't have to worry or think about anything. The more relaxed our brain is, the moment we go to bed, the easier it is to fall asleep. That is why some people just straight up fall asleep 2 seconds after placing their head on the pillow. Because they've done everything they had to do that day, and because they gave themselves some free time to wind down before going to bed. Other things that affect sleep are learning and exercise. People who learn about new stuff and people who exercise every day will generally sleep better than those who don't do any of those. And it's not necessarily because we have less energy at the end of the day, but rather, once again, it's because the brain can at the end of the day say, we did everything we had to do today, so there is no need for me to worry about anything, so we can fall asleep now. You know, we have the same brains we used to have back when most people work in fields or doing some intensive work in terms of strength or using their minds. And so if we don't engage in those things every day, then the brain thinks we haven't finished our daily tasks. Another thing that can affect your sleep is your diet. Many people can do everything I mentioned before perfectly and will find themselves falling asleep quickly, but what they will also find is that they will waking up multiple times during the night, some even going for a nighttime snack. Now, why does this happen? Most people think that sleep is like hibernation, where nothing happens during it, but in reality, nighttime is when our body heals itself. The immune system is very active, and so is cell repair, and at the same time, the brain clears most of the bad stuff it accumulates during the day. So all this means we use a good amount of calories after 8 hours of sleep. And people think they can go through the day with one meal or that they don't need to eat much in the evening, but that couldn't be further from the truth. And so our body still needs to have enough calories to pass throughout the night without any problems. Not as much as while we're awake, but it still needs some. And of course, we cannot talk about sleep without mentioning stress. Stress is a natural indicator of danger, and if our brain thinks there is danger nearby, then the last thing it's going to do is allow us to fall asleep. Now, this is most likely the most difficult part to deal with because, I don't know what you go through every day in your life, so I can't say, oh, do this and all your stress will go away. So pretty much this is the only part where it's left up to you, but one thing I can do is assure you that doing all of the previous stuff I mentioned will in itself help a lot with stress at the end of the day. So now we worked up our way through the day to nighttime. Now we can focus on the going to bed part. Humans naturally have a window in which we're supposed to go to bed and in which we are supposed to also wake up. And if we miss that window, it becomes increasingly difficult. And the reason why it can get harder to fall asleep is because as we get more and more tired, it becomes increasingly hard for our brain to limit our impulses and to use willpower. So ideally, we go to bed at this perfect 1 to 2 hour long window, usually between 9 and 10 p.m. And it's a window in which we're sufficiently tired to go to bed and fall asleep, but not so tired that we can't fight the urge to get on our phones or to watch one last episode of a TV series or whatever. So yeah, pretty much we are fighting sleep procrastination. I mean, I've talked about procrastination in previous videos, and it's funny as humans just how we tend to procrastinate on doing chores. We also tend to procrastinate first on going to bed, and if we make it that far, we can also end up procrastinating on then falling asleep. So if we don't go to bed this window of time, which is usually between 9 to 10 p.m. for most people, like I said, we will find that falling asleep becomes so much harder, even if we are more tired than before. And of course, I can't go without mentioning technology, because if you watch my video about suppressing your emotions, which I recommend you watch if you haven't already, what happens is that since we don't allow our brain to process emotions throughout the day, the moment we lay in bed is the only moment our brain can actually do so. And thus it floods our minds with thoughts, and many of them can be negative. So what do people do? Well, instead of letting their brain process their emotions, they grab their phone to stop that flood of thoughts. And so now we have two things keeping us awake: our phone and our emotions. We can't put the phone down, otherwise the thoughts are gonna come flooding back in, and we can't fall asleep because we don't let the brain process the thoughts. And so we just use our phone for a long time until we get so exhausted that we just straight up can't stay awake and fall asleep. And by that time, the proper sleep window is far behind, and we pretty much destroy our sleep schedule, so we rely on a painful alarm that has to wake us up every single day. So just like I talked about in the other video, you need to allow your mind to process thoughts throughout the day. Allow yourself to be bored every now and then so you can also fall asleep easier. With all of this said, the conclusion I want to give you is that there is 100 more little things that you can do that can help you sleep, but at the same time there are also 100 more little things that can make it harder to fall asleep. Not only that, some people can have slight variations in their organisms, and that changes how they handle certain things. The point is, sleep is a very complex subject, and not even to this day do we understand it 100%. But generally the rule is, the better your awake life is, the better the sleep you will get. Just, the basics that everyone says about a healthy life, eating healthy, doing exercise, doing work, not doing drugs or drinking caffeine after 12 p.m. and going to bed early. That is pretty much 80% usually of what determines sleep quality. And as with most things in life, it's not about doing the correct things, it's about not doing the wrong things. Anyways, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening to me, and if you like the video, give it a like and subscribe if you aren't already. Have a great day, and